In 2023, Shawn Johnson stood at the edge of greatness, only to watch it slip away by a single yard.
398 wins it. Berkshire, the king of long drive once again.
Fast forward to 2024, and redemption came calling.
And there's the Shawn Johnson spin.
By that same razor-thin margin, Shawn claimed the World Long Drive Championship, proving that in this sport, the difference between glory and heartbreak is measured in inches. But Shawn's story isn't just about the numbers.
Shawn Johnson has been dominant tonight.
It's about resilience and a relentless pursuit of what lies beyond the horizon. Today, he sets the golf club aside and picks up a fishing pole as we talk about the rise, the grind, and what it takes to stay on top. This is Out of Bounds with Shawn Johnson.
This right here is probably one of the more memorable fishing spots for you.
You could say that.
Yeah?
You could say that.
You want to tell me the story there?
Okay, so, oh man. Saturday before the World Championships. So World Championships started was that Thursday?
The Thursday.
On a Thursday. So this was the Saturday before. I'm out here with a couple of other long drivers here at the One Stop Power Shop. And it's kind of midday lull, you know. We already hit in the morning. And it's kind of figuring out what you're going to do until nighttime. You're going to hit again. And Connor Sterrett, I was taking a nap. I was being smart, you know, taking care of the body, recovering. And Connor Sterrett comes running in and says, "Shawn, I caught a fish." And just excited about it. I don't know if he's ever caught a fish before, you know, city boy for sure.
Yeah.
And I sit straight up out of the chair and I was like, well, why didn't I get an invite? I want to go fish. So it's right before a storm. The fish are biting, you know, put on a whopper plopper. It's something that sits on top of the water and just plops along. And I'm catching fish, you know, I'm probably 8 casts. I've probably caught 15 fish already on 8 casts. And so I'm walking down the side and Connor sees like this little bunny and he's like, "Shawn, like, I think this bunny needs help." And so I'm like, okay, let me just cast this one and I'll be over there and we'll help the bunny, right?
Yeah. I didn't see this story going this way.
So I catch a fish on this next cast and I'm like, okay, get it off real quick and then we can go save the bunny, right? And so like it's got 2 hooks on it, right? And one's on the front of the lure, one's on the back of the lure. So one of the hooks is in the fish's mouth and one's kind of in its side. So I don't have any pliers and I get the one out of its mouth. And I wasn't sure, I was trying to jimmy the other one out. It wouldn't come out. And then Connor's like really worried about this bunny, right? So he's like, "Shawn, get over here." And right when he says that, I look up and the fish wiggles and the fish turns over and the hook goes straight through my finger. And I'm like, it was pointer finger.
Okay.
Yeah, pointer finger of the right hand. So pretty important finger to move the club with. And I start freaking out. The fish is still on the hook. I'm yelling at Connor, like, "You got to get over here. You got to get over here." And he thinks I've got like this huge fish. Yeah. And he gets over and like, he kind of turns pasty white when he sees it. And he's like, and I'm like, "Connor, you got to pull it out." Cause that's my first reaction, right? Yeah. Like, I don't want this thing in me. Get it out of me. So he looks at it and he's like, "I'm not pulling that out," because it was past the barb, right? Yep. So we run back to the shop and I'm yelling at Bobby, like, Bobby, you got to pull it out. And he looks at it and he says the same thing. He said, "I'm not pulling that out. That's past the barb." And right when he says that, I get like completely pasty white, about to pass out. I got to sit down. So long story short, we go to the hospital, get it pulled out. And it was, luckily it wasn't through the bone. It was through the side of the finger, so a lot of the soft tissue. But I was in the position where it was 4 days before the Long Drive Championships, and I just got a hook removed from my finger, and it's blown up like a balloon, and I had absolutely no idea if I was going to compete. Absolutely no idea. So, you know, a couple days go by, some of the swelling goes down, and I go to the range just to move it around, and it feels absolutely terrible. It feels like pins and needles are going through my hand. So it was literally I drove down to Atlanta on Wednesday and just pretty much went into Thursday crossing my fingers, and took a bunch of ibuprofen before Thursday, and it didn't feel good. It didn't hurt. Yeah. But it didn't feel good, and progressively throughout the tournament, it got a little bit better, but there's a few days there where I truly thought I just, screwed myself out of competing at the World Championship. If it caught the bone, and that's talking centimeters now.
Yeah.
If it catches the bone, I'm done. I'm absolutely toast.
I don't even know where we start. Like, what? Let's just go back all the way to you starting off in a high level of sports. Was it hockey or baseball first, or even golf?
Yeah.
That drew you to it. Like, what was your primary focus starting out?
I did gymnastics, soccer, lacrosse. I played everything across the board. And then once I got to middle school, it was pretty much like golf, baseball, hockey, basketball.
Yep.
Just because I was taller, I had to have the chance of basketball.
So hockey, I think you stopped playing in high school.
Yep.
That's correct.
Yeah.
And went on to baseball. You played collegiate baseball. Played JUCO.
Yep.
Played at Ole Miss. What was the highlight of the baseball career? Obviously, you went on to be drafted.
Yeah.
And then signed a pro deal, which you turned down. I mean, I don't want to take it from you, but let's walk through it because you've got a ton of stories.
For sure. Yeah. I'll jump some ages,
okay.
But
yeah.
We'll go back to when I was 12. I entered my first ever golf tournament at Hillcrest Country Club in Durango, Colorado. And my neighbor, Pat Root, who was like always rooting for me, she gave me, I think, her Adams ladies driver that like I was just getting tall enough that it was going to fit me. And we were on the second hole of the tournament and we all hit our drives and I smoked my drive. It was a huge drive. And at this time it was probably like 300 yards. And, we go down the hill and the two kids in my group, they hit their balls and I take my club out and I'm just practice swinging. And then we go up and we find my ball and I hit my shot. And the person keeping our score goes, so that was your third shot, right? And I said, no, that was my second shot. She said, so you're telling me that was your drive? And I was like, yeah, that was my drive. And she was like, no, it wasn't. And I was like, yeah, yes, it was. Like, I hit the ball far. And she, like, wouldn't believe me. Yeah. And she wrote that down as my third shot. And I was,
come on.
And that point on, I was like, I hit the ball far.
Yeah.
But jumping ages, I got sent off to boarding school in high school for hockey. It was just I grew up with 6 brothers and sisters, and my dad was doing everything possible for us to create as many opportunities for us.
And you grew up in Colorado?
Grew up in Colorado, correct. So grew up in Durango, went to high school up in Colorado Springs.
Yep.
So it was a really cool situation. I was playing for, Team New Mexico down in Albuquerque, just because Durango was closer to New Mexico than to Denver.
Yeah.
So just a little bit easier to go play down there. And we went up to a tournament in Colorado Springs, and one of the coaches that was recruiting for this next year's program, they're bringing it back since like the 80s, first time since the 80s. And he was recruiting players, and he walks up to my dad, and my dad's like, hold on, like my son's on a PK right now. And like I lost a glove, lost my stick, made a big hit, kicked the puck out of the zone with my skate, and he was like, I want your kid. and so that was like, okay, maybe I'm gonna go play professional hockey, you know? So went up to the boarding school and continued playing golf, hockey, and baseball. Played baseball at the public school across the street because we didn't have baseball at the school I was going to. But that was when, I started, in the fall was like the only time I picked up the golf clubs.
Yeah.
So I was hitting 400-yard drives in high school, made states a couple times, wasn't anything impressive.
Sure.
I was like 80 to 85. I think I placed like 7th in the region, but that was like for 2A players. So nothing too impressive, but I was smacking the golf ball around. And then hockey took off, was starting to get some Division III offers. But my dad sent me to the school to, get a college scholarship. Yeah. So, as soon as baseball started picking up and started getting some scholarships for baseball, started throwing the ball a little bit harder, was going down to this team in Texas. That was the #1 team in the nation in the summers. And that's when I started realizing like, okay, maybe baseball's a thing for me. Got up to 88 my junior summer. And then my senior year started really getting recruited for baseball and got recruited to the #1 junior college in the nation at the time. And that's kind of when I was like, all right, baseball's my thing. Started taking off for it.
And you go on to be drafted.
Mm-hmm.
You go on to sign a professional deal. What was the highlight in your baseball career? What was the #1 thing that you...
Man.
you remember fondly?
I think it was. So I got picked up by the Houston Astros on a free agent sign after my senior year, and they flew me down to Florida. They looked at my elbow. I had had Tommy John a couple years before in 2015. Called me the next night, said, "Hey, we don't like your elbow. We're sending you home." Yeah,
just like that.
Just like that. So I was signing for. I was a free agent sign, so it was pretty much for a ketchup packet, $500.
Okay.
They flew me down. This all happened. Told me I was going home the next day. I think the $500 went to my plane ticket, and then they gave me $60 cash, and then I was on my way home. But my favorite part of my entire career is that I grinded for 4 years after that, and got look after look from organization after organization. And it was kind of like, man, how do I explain this? It was kind of like, what I talked about with opportunities and failures. After the World Championship is that, not every opportunity is to make you succeed. It's to make you fail and to learn. And it taught me that you just can't give up, because there's always opportunities out there, right? And maybe this one's not for you. Maybe it's in something else, but you got to go chase it. So in 2020, right before COVID, the Cincinnati Reds called me to ask me to come out to spring training to throw for them. And 2 days later, COVID happened. So it was like time after time after time, it was like I was receiving these opportunities that, it seemed like I failed and failed and failed. But then, it grew me to eventually win a world championship, because I knew just because you're failing doesn't mean you're losing. It meant you're learning.
And so much
you could go on to succeed in something else.
So much that's out of your control. Right?
Oh yeah.
Like their decision, COVID.
Oh yeah.
But what's in your control is to keep pushing, to keep going.
Absolutely.
And that's what you really have to focus on, instead of focusing on the negatives and the things that are.
Absolutely. Long drive's the first sport where we get to actually control our career. It's not anybody else's word. When you're out there hitting golf balls in long drive, you get to control your destiny.
Right.
It solely depends on how far you hit the ball, and if you hit it farther than the person next to you, you win.
Like, do you remember the day that you said, "I'm going to walk away from baseball, and I'm going to move on"? And how difficult was that, having invested so much time in it?
What was it? 2022. I was 27 years old, playing in Lake Erie in the Frontier League, minor league baseball, and I was leading the league in ERA, leading the league in strikeouts. Just having a stellar start to the season. In the Frontier League, you don't really fly anywhere. It's long bus trips everywhere.
Yep.
And my coach comes up to me, our skip, and he says, "Hey, we're flying you back for the next game." And in my mind, I'm like, okay, that means the scouts come to watch me. Like, I've done my part. Now it's time to just show up, have a good game, and I could be getting called up to an organization, going to AA, something like that, right? Fly back. In that game, it's raining, turf mounds, molded cleats, slip on the mound, put up my arm to brace myself, and pop my shoulder out of my socket in front of the scout. And that go back to the locker room, and I was like, that's it. I already knew going into the season, 27 years old, like, if I don't do something now, it's probably not going to happen.
Right.
So pretty much tried to play through it, couldn't do it. Just an anterior labrum, front side of the shoulder, tore it. And went back to Colorado to kind of try to figure my life out. My dad calls me and says, "Hey, there's a long drive tournament in Salt Lake City, Utah next week." And I said, "Next week?" He said, "Yeah, start swinging the golf club." And I said, "All right, let's go." So I think 3 days of practice with a long drive club. And woke up at 3 a.m., drove 8 hours to Salt Lake City. Made it all the way to the semifinals in the regional qualifier, hitting the ball about 10 feet off the ground.
And the long drive career was born. That was 2022.
That was 2022.
And in 2022, you go on to win PLDA Rookie of the Year.
Yep.
Oh, like, what a perfect transition.
It just fed me right into it. It started the process, and I started working for a long drive as hard as I worked for baseball. I would work for 8 hours a day. I was substitute teaching too. So I'd work for 8 hours, substitute teaching, go knock doors for a couple hours selling solar, and then go to the driving range. 2, 3, 4 hours driving range and gym, and just grinding away, learn how to hit a golf ball. long drive's such a sport of misfits.
Yeah.
Like, it is such a sport of misfits. Like, it doesn't seem like there's a single person that planned on being a long driver growing up.
Right.
You know, it's people who tried to succeed in anything else, and unfortunately we couldn't.
Yeah.
and somehow we're succeeding in this, so we're running over to it and giving it all we got, because
Right.
this is our last chance. As soon as you do a speed session, you know you've got it or you're not.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
And then it's like, okay, can I figure out how to make trajectories of the golf ball to do what I want to do?
Sure.
So that's what's so cool about it, is that it's you up there on a tee box, blasting music at you, tons of people watching,
Yeah.
screaming your name, and it's just you and a golf ball, and you're trying to hit that thing as hard as you can. And it is, unfortunately, one of the hardest things to do. Like, the amount of people that top a golf ball when they're on that tee box is actually comical.
Yeah.
Like, the adrenaline is rushing through your body so much. You'll put the golf ball on the tee, if you can get the golf ball on the tee, and you'll look at your hand and you wonder if other people can see you shaking.
You guys get fired up about this.
But it feeds you.
Yeah.
It really feeds you. Like, I can't tell you how many times I've thrown a bullpen and been 89, 92.
Yeah.
And then I get into a game and I'm 92, 94, 95.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
It's that adrenaline that just feeds you. So it's like, you know, you're going to go faster.
How important is it for you to be able to like harness that too? Right.
Oh yeah. Yeah. You got to learn how to, I guess, tame your supplements.
Yeah. Yeah.
I mean, too much caffeine and you're going to be over the edge, right?
Yeah.
Not enough caffeine and you're not going to be hyped up enough.
Right.
So it's all about mixing the feng shui.
Okay.
Know?
What's your go-to? Do you have like a specific, maybe like energy drink or something? That
before I hit, I always go a Monster, 0 sugar Monster, whatever kind.
Just whatever kind.
Yep, and one ibuprofen.
Right.
Just one ibuprofen. Make sure everything feels good.
Cool.
You know? All the tightness is out of the muscles.
2022 Rookie of the Year, on to the next year where you're a finalist in the World Championship and then you win the World Championships. It's insane. How did you start working with Bobby Peterson, and how did he help you achieve your status in long drive and perfect your game?
Yeah, so that's a cool little snippet to the story too. So when I went to that first regional qualifier out in Utah, I saw Bobby, and everyone's talking to Bobby, you know, most popular guy at the event.
Yeah.
And I'd constantly heard about him, and we had met at that tournament. Very brief conversation. He was focused on his hitters that were hitting in the competition at the time. But he was like, hey, if you ever want to come out to One Stop to train, you know, you did pretty good, let me know and we can arrange it. So that was in, I want to say, August of 2021, somewhere around there. And then January of 2022 came, and I was trying to learn how to hit the golf ball off the ground, and I was still hitting it, you know, 10 feet off the ground. And in the back of my head, I just keep hearing Bobby Pearson, Bobby Pearson, Bobby Pearson. And I'm like, all right, screw it. I'm going to see this guy. So we arranged a time for me to come out. I think it was me, Josh Cassidy, Alex Bloser was here. Colton might have been here too.
Okay.
But it was like my first introduction to long drive, like what this is really about. So they sent me through a speed session, and I think I topped like 218 ball speed. So for a first speed session, pretty electric.
Yeah.
And I get done, and I'm getting ready to go home after the weekend here, after he's taught me so much stuff. Like, I was so new to the sport.
Yeah.
I had no knowledge at all. I didn't even know what a TrackMan was. So leaving here, and he's like, hey, do you want to be a part of the One Stop Power Shop team? And, you know, gave me the lowdown of how it all worked. And right before I left, he said, if you move here, I'll make you a world champion.
Come on.
And I said, like literally move here?
I didn't even mean to do that. Come on, by the way. That just happened. That just happened.
It's catching on. It's catching on.
Yeah.
So finished the rest of the trip, and to North Carolina I came, and now every single weekend I spend here at the One Stop Power Shop.
Yeah.
And Bobby told me exactly what was going to happen. If I moved out here, I was going to be a world champion.
Yeah.
And here I am today. I had to learn that this isn't a ball speed competition.
Mm-hmm.
There's so many times that you get up there and just try to whack the ball as hard as you can, when the reality is that there's so much going on around you, whether it's how the grass lays, the denseness of the grass, how hard's the dirt underneath the grass, what's the wind doing. It's so much more about hitting the ball as far as you can, not hitting the ball as hard as you can. And when I realized that and started to actually hone my skill of like, okay, in this situation I need to hit this ball, in this situation I need to hit this ball, that's where I started to get good. I was cracking top 8s, just hitting the ball hard.
I remember the first year that I came into it, 2023, like you were always knocking at that door, consistently in that top 8 area.
Always.
And then it started to ramp up a little bit more.
It was literally just like switching my mindset from hitting the ball as hard as you can to hitting the ball as well as you can.
Yeah.
Right? So that's like one of the biggest mistakes that I see is guys just come in here and try to swing their butts off.
Yeah.
With absolutely no skill behind it other than just ball speed.
Yeah.
When there's so many more things to it that it's like rocket science, right?
Yeah.
JJ talks about that all the time.
Yeah.
It's literally like rocket science. Like you're launching something into a trajectory to get the most distance out of it. So how are you going to figure out all those numbers behind it that make the ball do what you want to?
Yeah. Let's go to 2023. You're in the final round there against Kyle Berkshire. And I think that was the furthest that I'd seen, at least, you get in a long drive competition.
Yeah.
The biggest stage that you had been on. And it comes down to 1 yard. Do you remember that feeling of being so close and just missing out?
It was kind of a realization of where I was and what I'd been able to develop, and that I really had a chance. Until you put yourself in that scenario, you don't ever know if you're actually going to get in that scenario. Yeah. So it's always just a guessing game of, can I actually get there?
Yeah.
And then you actually get there, and it's kind of a surreal moment. You don't really, like in the moment, you don't really understand what you just did for yourself.
Yeah.
And then you get past it, and you're like, wow, this is all the things I've done to be able to get myself there.
Yeah.
And it hurt a little bit. I felt proud of myself to be able to put myself in that situation.
Yeah.
But then it also hurts to lose.
And then this year, 2024, you went through competitions, you did well, but
it wasn't the year I expected.
Right.
Yeah.
Not the year you expected. And I think I remember hearing you talk about changing things up before the World Championships.
Yeah.
You kind of stayed the course.
Yeah.
Right?
It's so many people change equipment constantly. When the fact is you gotta find what works for yourself, and then you gotta find what's gonna help you hit the best shot in a situation. Like all year I'd been hitting draws just because that's what I could find. Well, kind of like we talked about before, when adrenaline hits, sometimes the body doesn't react the way you want it to react. Yeah. And you can't hit the ball the way you're planning on hitting that golf ball.
Right.
So you're just trying to hit it, So it was finally, I got to the World Championships and I found a shot. I went through day one and struggled through day one and barely made it through day one. I think I was the 15th or 16th guy to make it through.
It's crazy how close it can be, right? Again, game of inches.
Game of inches.
Yeah.
And I barely made it through, and then that right before the fifth set, I found a shot, made it through the fifth set, and then I just stuck to that shot.
Yeah.
It was a shot that I could hit, 10-yard cut right down the middle, and I was like, if this is the ball going far for me, and this is the one I can hit right now, this is exactly what I'm going to hit.
Was there a point there where you felt like you had it too? Like, I got this in the bag.
Oh yeah. No, it was like a nostalgic feeling.
Yeah.
Like I was hitting on the range next to James Tate, and we're messing with each other, talking a little crap back and forth.
And a repeat of 2023.
And a repeat,
too.
Yeah, a repeat
and
of 2023.
He hit the longest drive
in 2023.
Yeah, and you
out of the entire tournament.
Yes, that was a monster.
Oh yeah. Ball. So I know he has the ability to hit a freak ball like that, right?
Yeah.
So I'm kind of talking my crap next to him. He hits a couple good ones, and I go, "Hey, you're gonna waste them all."
Right.
Like, hey, you want to hit all those good ones out here? You're gonna waste them. And no, that was really something else. It was just like in that range session, I felt so within myself. Like I didn't let anything get outside of my control. I just controlled exactly what I could control, and I knew that was going to be enough.
Yeah.
And if I could just go out there and literally just control what I could control, I knew that could at least get me to the finals.
Yeah.
And then once you make it to the finals, it's all about closing your eyes and swinging hard.
And you lost by 1 yard in 2023, and then you win by 1 yard.
Oh yeah.
It had to be in that dramatic and epic fashion.
And the craziest part about it is I first went down by a yard.
Yes.
And then I won by a yard.
Right.
So I think it was my third ball. Jack Smith went 410. He went first. I went 409 on my third ball. And then I think my fifth ball, I went 411.
There's a a saying in sports like job's not done. I'm sure you just want to keep going and keep winning.
Oh yeah. You know, Kyle's got 3, I want 4. Zubak's got 5, I want 6. You know, I'm not doing this just for fun. You know, I want to make a name for myself and let people know who the longest driver in the world is.
But you're what, 33?
30.
30?
Yeah.
30?
Yeah, I'm only 30.
Smokes.
I look that old?
No, I just, for some reason, I thought you were a little bit older. I don't know. No, I should have known that. You know, how many years left, like, do you see yourself going for?
I do a lot of functional training.
Yeah.
So right now, my training's not to be, you know, the absolute fastest guy in the world. My training's to last as long as possible.
Yeah.
So I don't think there's any reason I can't keep going until I'm at least 40.
Yeah.
You know, there's no doubt I've got 10 years left in the tank. Once you hit that 40 number, I'm not sure what's going to happen.
Yeah.
I might wake up that day and not be able to get out of bed.
Yeah.
But I'd like to at least till 35, I can absolutely keep my speed. And then from there, it's just a matter of how bad I want it or not.
So not only do you want to be the best in the sport, you just want to be the best Shawn Johnson to ever do it. Period, right?
I guess you could say that. Yeah, we got the Olympic gold medalist, Shawn Johnson.
Yeah.
Yeah, she was actually coming about when I was going off to my first year of boarding school. So every time I introduced myself to someone, I was, "Hi, I'm Shawn Johnson, like the gymnast." And no one would forget my name.
Yeah.
But yeah, she's got 4 gold medals. I better get 5 world championships. So she can't be the best Shawn Johnson, you know. I got to pride the Shawn Johnson name.
Shawn, we've talked about so much. I'm already looking forward to our next conversation. The one thing we haven't done here is caught a fish.
We got to make that happen.
Just watch your thumb. Yeah, just watch your finger.